Yes.
47 quickly restoring order to the border. President Trump's shock and awe ICE raids have begun, with immigration officers arresting 308 illegal criminals on his first day in office, including an attempted murderer and a child molester. And there's more to come. Tom Homan warning every illegal is fair game for deportation.
What would a person have to do to get a visit from ICE?
For it to be in the country illegally. Right now, as we said repeatedly, and the President Trump's been clear, we're concentrating on the worst first, the public safety threats, the national security threats. And just yesterday, in the last 24 hours, ICE arrested over 308 serious criminals. So ICE is doing their job, and they're prioritizing just as the president said they would. So the ICE is performing excellent right now out in the field, and they're going to continue every day.
Harold, the worst first.
I like that.
You like it, don't you?
I do.
Yep, you're almost a Republican. Come on over. The water's warm, and I'll make it warmer.
Oh, gross.
I think that, I listened to Mr. Holman during the transition period, and I agreed with a lot of the spirit. I didn't always agree with some of the histrionics, but I like this the worst first. I think as they consider schools and churches, I know there's some people who are objecting to that. I'm one of them. I hope that is not part of the strategy. But I totally agree that those elected officials who try to stop them or prevent them or obstruct them from the worst first strategy, I think they should. The law speaks to what they're able to do to them. But I don't like the idea. I want to be clear. I don't like the idea of schools and churches going in and taking people. Wait for them to come out. Go with the worst the first strategy
So they'll
first.
just hang out around schools and
like
churches.
sanctuary.
Jeez Louise, Harold. What is wrong with you? You know, Dana, isn't it kind of interesting that it's Homan who's sending them Homan?
Gosh, it really is poetic what is happening here. Look, if you're one of the small minority of people who believes that these deportations are wrong, there's somebody that you can blame, and that's Joe Biden. Terrible policy failures led to a moment where you have a situation that the people of this country voted to say, we have had enough. I think it's super interesting also that there are some people who think that even if you have a deportation order, you shouldn't be sent home.
Right.
But that's against the law.
Yeah.
If they are ordered to go home and you don't deport them, then you are actually breaking the law at that point.
This is interesting, Judge, because I always find it hilarious that sanctuary cities exist. Like in America, where everybody obeys the law, there are exception pockets, and they're for people who aren't Americans. Like, there's no sanctuary cities for me, and I don't want to pay taxes. Can we have a sanctuary city for people who don't pay taxes?
I think
No.
that we should sue for equal protection.
Yeah.
That Americans, when they commit crimes, they should be able to be protected. Okay? Not
Yes.
really. Okay, now let's talk about this Governor Pritzker. He vows to protect illegals in his state from ICE. Now, the problem with that is he is protecting illegals in American cities where when ICE goes in, there is going to be a problem identifying them and putting Americans and police in jeopardy when they try to arrest them, not to mention that many of them are some of them, what percentage of criminals already have evaded any kind of sentence and arrest or arrest and prosecution. But this is obstruction. It is violation of the federal law. It is violation of Article 2 of the Constitution. The Supremacy Clause requires that state and local enforcement comply with the executive branch immigration enforcement. Federal law prohibits state and local acts from resisting obstruction and failing to comply with lawful immigration commands. So let's be real clear about this. The fact that Joe Biden didn't think it was a crime, this guy was in la-la land the whole time. This stuff is a crime. And if we get to the point where we have to arrest governors and other officials because they prevent law enforcement from working with ICE, it's time to take a side. You're with the Americans or you're with illegals who need to be deported. The worst, 1.4 million already have deportation orders. And my last thought is this. 90% of those released into the interior failed to show up for asylum hearings. So don't give me this nonsense that they need asylum. We release them and they don't even show up. And of those who do, in 1 year, 54,000 were granted asylum out of millions who got that temporary asylum. Stop kidding yourselves.
You know, Jesse, imagine that I'm a police officer, and not the kind you see at strip clubs, but and I'm arresting you. I'm going to arrest you because you broke the law. If I were a liberal, I would stop by our house and take your kids as well to jail because I don't want to separate you from your family. How soon before we hear the family separation hysteria that, oh my, so they expect you to arrest the whole family together. Why, we would think that's barbaric if it were American citizens.
If they want to send everybody home to Guatemala, they can. They can get on the plane or they can stay here without their papa. I strongly disagree with Handsome Harold here. If there is a international sex trafficker in this country illegally, but he's hanging out by a school, Biden said you can't pick him up?
I meant kids, Jess. I didn't say that. I meant
No,
kids.
Harold didn't say that.
Why are you defending pedophiles, Harold?
No, we didn't.
Here's another carve-out they have in Biden's era. If you're worshiping, they can't pick you up. So you could be doing a satanic ritual.
No,
you could be
Jesse.
slitting a goat's throat and guzzling its blood in the middle of nowhere, and ICE can't grab you. How about this?
Vikings?
When there's disaster or an emergency response, ICE can't arrest a criminal migrant. So in LA County, everyone's untouchable. How about this? A wedding. So if you find El Chapo going to his brother's wedding, you can't pull him out of the service. Lastly, a parade, demonstration, or rally. That means if there was a criminal alien at January 6th, Biden couldn't arrest him.
And
That's
Trump
how
couldn't
stupid
pardon him.
it is. And Trump couldn't pardon him.
Right.
All right.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.